Hey, I'm back and it's time to add some more detail to my R6 T3X droid legs. Today we'll get the shoulder horseshoes mounted to the legs. These shoulder horseshoes are a good example of how my plans change as I'm working through this process. I initially intended to print these out in ABS plastic, but I decided to give Baltic Birch a try. So I ended up laminating 2 sheets of 1/2-inch Baltic Birch plywood, and then I planed it down to the 7/8 that I needed and cut these on my CNC. The parts came off the machine looking pretty good and only really needed a little bit of cleanup where I left holding tabs. I made up a custom tool for cutting these notches on the inside of the horseshoes. I took a number 199 Dremel bit and I added a bushing that I turned on my lathe to make a flush cut tool for my drill press. This allowed me to simply run the cutter around the inside of the horseshoe, cutting at the proper depth of a 1/16 of an inch, or 1.6 millimeters. The cutter is only about 1.5 millimeters thick, so I needed to make a couple passes on each groove to get it to the dimensions shown on the drawings, which is 0.105 of an inch or 2.6 millimeters. I printed up a plastic guide to help with setting the heights, and I just set the platen on my drill press where I needed it for each pass. My next step is to give them another quick sanding and get some primer on them and see where it goes from there. Before I primed, I brushed on a couple coats of wood hardener with the hopes that this would toughen up the edges and the grooves. Then I went through my usual routine of a heavy coat of filler primer followed by sanding and another primer. So in between the horseshoes and the legs, there's a 1/8 inch shim with a 1/16 inch setback. And I've cut these shims on the CNC. These aren't cleaned up yet, but here they are. And I'm gonna actually try to use the shims as a way to attach the horseshoes to the legs using screws in these keyhole slots. So the shims are gonna be permanently attached to the horseshoes, and then the two together will be able to key onto the legs. Or at least that's my hope. So I put keyhole slots in the aluminum shim, and I need to add clearance in the horseshoes to accommodate the screw heads that'll hold the whole thing together. Here I'm installing the holding screws on the legs before finally mounting the shim to the horseshoes with countersunk screws. So that's it for this video. The next one I do should show the final details that'll finish off the legs, including the leg struts and the shoulder hydraulics.